As you see, Pro XP looks much more like an RS1 than it looks like a Honda. They took the styling and handling of an RS1, and they took the big, tough, awesome ride suspension and big power from Turbo S, combined the two, and made Pro XP. Floorboard's awesome. You see the comparison as far as RS1 to Turbo S combined with all their best qualities makes Pro XP. It's not a Honda. It's not copying a Honda. RS1 was out way before the Honda. So if anything, they're copying RS1. So get that out of your heads. You're gonna like it. As soon as you get around it, as soon as you drive one, you'll be like, holy cow, that really is the next level. This is what's coming. And every company is going to be upgrading every year. So just when you think it's over, here they come again. So here's a walk around with it on the lift to show under it and such what I couldn't show at the dealer show. So here's Pro XP on the left. It comes with aluminum hubs now. I kind of questioned that because earlier models had aluminum hubs and they broke. But after talking to engineering, they said they had nearly zero problems. And when they did, they re-engineered it and did again. So I don't think there's anything to worry about there. As I said before, hard lines with flex lines on both ends. So gives you a little more solid brakes. Big upper arms. Lower arms are a little smaller, but they're plated here in the bend. For those that bend and break arms, Polaris designs these arms to break before you break a frame or before you bend a frame. It's cheaper to replace an arm than a frame. This new Pro XP is a one-piece frame. So yeah, if you bend that, you're either refabbing or you're buying a whole new frame. They went to aluminum spindles / bearing carriers. Lighter, stronger. You know, I can't help but believe them. They've been testing these machines for a couple years now. So for those that wonder, the arm, and actually heavier tie rods like Turbo S. So those that wonder, if you look at the arm mounts, they look very similar to a Turbo S as far as, you know, skinny mount up front, wide mount in the back, and then kind of reversed up top. Well, after talking to Mark Holes, that does a little bit of engineering, and he's got one caged out, and he had long travel on the red, white, and blue razor there. The lower arms off Turbo S will fit, but the upper arms won't. Something about width. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer. So arm companies, you might be able to jig lower arms off Turbo S and just change the length to 64 inch, but upper arms is going to have to be a whole new engineering. That's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. As you see, we got that big massive front diff. We got a really big sway bar. Sway bar links are thicker like Turbo S. That's big diff. It's got, you know, the hanging diff, so you're hard pressed to beat that. RS1 brought it out, then Turbo S brought it out, and now a lot of you hill killers in the east are using it. That diff right there is tried and true. Little to no problems. I'm not saying none, but very, very few. Much bigger, better radiators. Now here's a fun fact. These two bolt, like as I said in my dealer show video, how the hell do you get the diff out? Because it's all one piece. Turbo S, this crossbar piece unbolts along with the arm mounts, and then the diff comes out. I saw that and I was like, there's no way that's coming out. So what they did is they made a lower subframe. These two bolts right here. Of course, you'd have to take the front fascia off, but honestly, it's really easy, and I'll take it off here in a second. These two bolts connect to the frame here. They go down. And then you have these 2 bolts. It's a sleeve type setup. So it kind of it's just like the bungs that you see on the roll cage. So this whole lower frame comes off. And then the diff just drops right out the bottom. And the rack just drops right out the bottom. So they hit another home run with serviceability. And actually on this model, the Pro XP, the winch mounts right here in this area. That's what this little pocket is for. That's where the winch mounts. Not over the diff. It's right here, so it's not in the way. So you can mount the winch right there, your bumper and all that kind of stuff, and you're good. I'm not going to take the wheels off the other side because I really have no need to. I mostly did this just to show everybody the spindles and the hubs. So yeah, that's a pretty amazing little setup there. Oh, also, it comes with a full skid plate from side all the way to side. Pro XP comes with a full skid plate. It's got one big body plate and then a smaller plate in the back over the motor transmission area. But it's full width, so we don't have open floorboards like what we used to. So another home run there. And actually the skid plate, it curves all the way around here and stops right here. So it really follows the floorboards really well. Very, very awesome setup. Of course, bigger bushings, bigger bolts, and all the pivots, just like Turbo S. So move over to the back of the machine. Again, aluminum hubs, same brakes. Bearing carriers are a little bit bigger, a little stronger. A little stronger axles. Axles have a little bit of a taper to them here. Very similar to the X300 Rhino axles. They say these axles have some flex in them. Huge lower radius rods. Really big bushings. Upper rods. Not quite as big, not as much likeliness to get hit. Much bigger, stronger arms. Here's the back half of the skid plate, the front half. The really big clutch box. Transmission has much thicker cases for all the damage people have done in the past. The yoke setup is different. It's not a flat yoke and then the shaft connects to it. It's a yoke very similar to automotive, where it's a true yoke with bands on the drive shaft, just like what you would find on a truck or a car. Comes with wheel scrapers, little wheel scrapers. These are 14-inch wheels. It comes from the factory with, so you got plenty of room for 14s and 15s, no problem. Very, very solid built machine, so it seems. And I watched Travis beat on it yesterday pretty good. Same way he beats on everything else, and it held up just fine. But it should. The research and the development they put into this is definitely a step above the rest. There's that massive frame. That frame tube has got to be like 2.5. I jump it down in size for the rear section, but that big frame tube goes all the way up towards the front. Pretty amazing. Alright, so he took the lower part of the front clip off, which is only just a couple of screws, and then opened the whole front end up. So you don't have to take the whole front grille off to get to the lower portion. Of course, there's the little cover, comes off the big cover. So this gets us to this whole front plate. All this is hooked to the frame, that the lower portion is a subframe that comes off. You don't have to take the upper arm mount off because it's just hollowed out right around it. This is where your bumper is going to mount. Bumper mounts to this plate, which is a winch area. The winch goes in this area right here. We don't have a winch yet, so I can't show you exactly where it goes. But judging by them holes, it probably hangs from right up in that area, and then the winch cable comes straight out. A couple of pop pins, and that would start taking your grill off. So yeah, it's very, very simple, very easy to get to. Helps you be able to service it and change whatever you want to change. So that's the easy way to get the subframe off. Just 4 bolts there, 4 bolts there, bolts under the bottom, and the whole bottom drops off. Pretty amazing, pretty simple. So I'm going to take the clutch cover off and show y'all what's up. Of course, the clutch tube is a hard tube now. It's pretty straight, gets lots of airflow. Here's a little detail for you. The shock eyelets have rubber boots on them now. The old shock eyelets had either a little O-ring or a little seal. Well, they actually have a little rubber boot on them now to keep all the dirt out. So definitely a lot of thought went into this. So here's a nice thing about this clutch cover. Of course, it's way bigger. The bolts don't come out. They stay in it. So that's really nice. You'll never lose the bolts. And also, here's a little fun fact. During testing, they ran a lot of belt temp sensors. So they had molded spots in there for the sensors. So when they went to full mold production on these, the dimples are still there. That's what these little dimples are for belt temp sensors. So you drill it from the inside, poke your sensor up from the outside, and your sensor is checking the hot part of the belt. That's a little fun fact that most people wouldn't even know. So those little dimples are from them running sensors and testing, and they left the dimples in it for production. So those of you that run temp sensors, there's already dimples for you to drill right there. Pretty simple. Kind of like I explained in my video at the dealer show, all the air comes in here, and they have these baffles that direct the air in behind everything, because the hottest part of the clutch is the very back, because it's close to the case. All the heat's dissipating between the motor and the transmission to the clutch, and the clutch is getting hot. So much bigger fins to circulate the air, much bigger exhaust area to get the air out. And these little black baffles here are what directs the air behind it to get it all cool. So this new clutch will fit on current turbos, but you'll have to get the clutch and the bolt. So the bolt is now a star bolt. I'm fixing to see what size it is, see if I can get it off. And the secondary clutch is just like original. You just screw a 1/4-20 in there, either the little L-shaped thing, or you can put a 1/4-20 on a socket or whatever, but that's what opens the secondary up. So I wanted to show you all the XP Pro new clutch design. I pulled the belt off. Same belt as current turbos. Secondary clutch would fit, but the shaft size is different, so secondary clutch won't fit. Primary clutch will fit current turbos. This comes from engineers and such. So the cool thing about this clutch is, it, as my show video shows, there's no more of them little slider things in here. It's got little plastic pucks on both sides, just like XP1000. So to get this clutch off, you're going to need to buy a T60 Torx, and get a good one, because you don't want to mess that bolt up and you don't want to break your bit off. So with a T60 Torx, you pull the center bolt out. It's a much better bolt than years past. And what's really neat about this clutch is the whole outer comes off as one piece. So anybody that's had to work on a clutch usually got to take the whole clutch out and then put it on a holder, and then you take your cap off, your spring off, and then you have a lock nut, and then the spider spins off. Well, this one, the whole outer comes off just like that. It's splined, and just like that, you can take your spacers off, and you can change the clutch bearing out. You could literally do this on the trail. Just carry an extra bearing. You put your bearing back on, put your spacers back on, and then got your whole outer. So now everything just comes apart with those 6 bolts that hold the spring and the cap on. Everything comes out. Put new bushings in it, and when you're done, you just slide it back on. It's spline, so it's not like a detent spline. It's spline, it fits wherever. Biggest thing on the clutch is you have an X mark here and then an X mark on your spider because they're weighted. That's why there's so many drill holes in these, is to center the weight and balance them. So if you take it apart, just make sure your X on here and your X on here lines up. So with it off, you just slide it back on, put your bolt back in, and torque it to the proper setting, and then put your belt back on. So that's pretty next level. If you're a racer or a performance type person, you could literally buy another outer, re-weight it, re-spring it, pull in one bolt, pull it out, slide the outer off, slide a new outer on. Desert guys, if y'all are running and clutch is messing up, slide the outer off, slide a new one on. It's literally that simple. A lot of engineering, a lot of thought went into that. And they said they tested on that for a long time to get it all just right. And of course you would torque this back to your normal torque, and then you're all done. So it's another just awesome feature of the Pro XP is, a rebuildable clutch that you could literally rebuild on the side of a trail. That's, as I said, some pretty next level stuff. Oh, and a note, it's not easy to get that outer off the first time. And take the bolt out, you have to take a rubber hammer and kind of tap on it and just keep pressure on it, keep pulling on it. It'll come off eventually. Once you take it off once, then it's easy to come on and off. I actually would compress the spring like that and let it pop and kind of knock its way off because you're using the spring power. But between kind of popping it with the spring, tapping it with a rubber hammer, just lightly on the sides while you're kind of pulling on it, it'll knock that outer right off. So an awesome thing they did with the new Pro XP, the gasket stays inside the clutch case. So there's no gasket on the cover to lose. And you can see on the clutch cover how the air comes in the hole and it sweeps around where my thumb is. And then that little kind of wedges the air back behind the clutches and uses the baffles to really help keep the belt cool. So between that awesome clutch setup, more air, and the gasket, it's some pretty next level awesome stuff. So the Pro XP, they claim, and it does, it fits a 30-inch tire in the bed, basically sitting on the rails. You have plenty of room to put stuff underneath there. Now I highly doubt a 32 will fit because it's a pretty tight fit, but if you're running 30s, you can lay a 30 on there and it fits just fine. So another engineering thing they looked into and did very well. So I wanted to add lastly on the Pro XP, the holes that they have laid out for tree kickers, tree bars, whatever, are sleeved all the way through the frame. So now you can easily through bolt whatever kind of tree bar, tree kicker you like. And it's really easy. You're not worrying about those little rivet nuts and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Polaris, they did very well on the Pro XP. A lot of engineering, a lot of thought, a lot of taking note on what the consumers wanted, and I think they delivered pretty well.